Welcome to Momo Tales. On a quiet summer morning, deep in a warm green meadow next to a calm blue pond, a mother duck was waiting. She had been sitting on her nest for many days, keeping her eggs safe and warm. One by one, she expected her babies to hatch soon. Every day, she whispered to them gently, telling them about the sunlight, the soft grass, and the beautiful world waiting outside. Finally, one bright morning, the nest began to move. The eggs wiggled, cracked, and out popped tiny yellow ducklings with fluffy feathers and shiny little eyes. They chirped happily, looking around at their mother and the world for the very first time. The mother duck smiled proudly, but then she noticed something strange. One last egg remained, and it was bigger, much bigger than the others. She waited and waited and waited a little longer. When the egg finally cracked open, the duckling that tumbled out looked nothing like the others. He was bigger than his siblings. His feathers were gray instead of yellow, and his neck was longer than what anyone expected. The other ducklings stared. The mother duck was surprised, but she still gathered him close and said softly, "You are different, but you are still my baby." But the meadow wasn't always kind. As the ducklings grew, the little gray one noticed the whispers. Other ducks pointed at him and laughed. The chickens in the farmyard clucked that he looked strange. The goats smirked, the geese honked loudly, and the little animals teased him every day. "Look at him, he's so ugly, he doesn't belong here." Every word made his heart sink a little heavier. He tried to join the other ducklings in swimming, but they swam away from him. He tried to play, but they refused. Even the mother duck became tired of defending him every moment. And so, late one evening, with a sad sigh and a trembling little heart, the gray duckling decided to leave. He slipped away quietly into the night, searching for a place where he wouldn't be judged for how he looked. He wandered far across fields and forests. He met wild ducks, but they didn't want him. He met geese preparing to migrate, but even they warned him, "Stay away, danger follows us." He found an old cottage with a cat and a hen, but they only cared about themselves. With every new place he visited, he was told the same thing, "You don't fit in here." Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. The air grew cold, and winter began to bite at his feathers. Snow covered the ground, and the ponds he once swam in froze solid. The wind howled, and the little duckling struggled to survive. He curled under bushes, hid inside hollow logs, and shivered through many lonely nights. But even in the coldest winter, something inside him whispered, "Keep going. Spring always comes." And so, he did. When spring finally arrived, the world glowed with fresh sunshine and blooming flowers. The frozen waters melted, and the animals emerged from their burrows. The duckling, now bigger and taller, stretched his wings that had quietly grown strong. One morning, he wandered to a beautiful lake he had never seen before. The water sparkled like glass. Across the surface, he saw elegant white birds gliding gracefully. They moved like floating clouds, long necks, smooth wings, and brilliant feathers. They were swans. He stared in awe, wishing he could be as beautiful and graceful as they were. He wanted nothing more than to admire them from afar. But something tugged at him, something deep inside. He stepped closer to the water and lowered his head for a drink. And then, he froze. Looking back at him from the clear water was not a gray, awkward duckling. It was a tall, elegant swan with gleaming white feathers. His neck curved beautifully, and his wings shone in the sunlight. The ugly duckling was never a duck at all. He had been a swan the whole time. The swan swimming nearby noticed him and glided toward him slowly. Instead of being chased away or mocked, he heard something he had never heard before, welcome. They circled around him gently, inviting him to join their group. And for the first time in his life, he did not feel out of place. He belonged. The young swan lifted his wings, felt the wind beneath them, and soared into the sky with the others. The sun warmed his feathers as he flew, The world below looked peaceful, and the world ahead looked bright. He was no longer lonely, no longer teased, no longer uncertain. The little bird who once thought he was the ugliest of all had grown into the most beautiful of them all, not because others decided he was beautiful, but because he finally discovered who he truly was. And from that day forward, whenever he swam across the shimmering lake, the other animals stared in awe, not with laughter, but with admiration. The young swan carried himself proudly, remembering the long journey that brought him here. He learned that sometimes the world won't understand you at first. Sometimes you won't fit in right away. But if you keep going, if you stay kind, and if you believe that better days are coming, your true self will shine when the time is right. And so, with the breeze on his wings and the warm sunlight on his feathers, the ugly duckling, now a graceful swan, began the happiest chapter of his life.